Welcome to the OtherWorldsGG Community Cast. This is episode number 58. And I am here with Mellified and Alien Pickle. How you guys doing today?
Hey, this is Mellified. I am doing wonderfully. We have not only do I have roosters to entertain everyone, but we have, I think it's 8 chicks, last count, that our hens have hatched this season. So you may hear lots of tiny little chirping, which would be the chicks as well as the roosters. So
you've been out there picking up chicks.
Actually, it's amazing to me that that chickens as a species survive, because they really don't pay that much attention to their children. The male chickens will run them over and knock them flying, and the mom, we're pretty sure one of the hens smothered one of the chicks trying to hatch out of the egg because she wouldn't get off of it. So there's some dark moments here with the raising chickens. But how are your chickens doing, Alien Pickle? You got your
chicken update?
Yeah, they're doing pretty good. So I got the run done last week, thank God, and that was a monumental effort. Like, I was shocked just how much effort it is to put like a steel frame and then wrap it in chicken wire. Yeah, it was ridiculous. Because I just figured, like, I'll go out and knock that out in an afternoon. No.
It's funny you guys were like talking about chickens a lot lately, because I'm like noticing it more. Like, the neighbors right behind us raise chickens. And then there's like a house a couple hundred yards down the way that also has like a big old chicken coop that they're raising. And these aren't like farms. This is just like people like you guys, like, just to have a half dozen or a dozen chickens. And
if you like eggs, it is. I mean, the eggs, the difference in quality of the store-bought eggs versus the ones that we get from our chickens is amazing to me. The yolks in our eggs are bright, intense neon orange versus the like pale yellow that you get in a grocery store egg.
Yeah, because you free rangers, right? They run around and eat stuff out of the yard. Yeah, that's why.
Yep. Yeah. They just, we obviously feed them as well, but even if you don't go crazy with organic chicken feed and stuff, and you just kind of feed them normal chicken food, like it's relatively easy, relatively cheap, other than, some of the initial setup, and you get great eggs. There's a farmer's co-op here in town that we donate our extra eggs to, but they sell them for $6 a dozen as organic eggs. And if we chose to sell them, we would get $5 a dozen, and they keep $1. We just donate them because we like the farmers co-op. We want them to continue, and we don't have any pressure then.
I was watching a dude on YouTube that does ducks, and I don't advise getting ducks. Ducks are just trouble. But he gets them, and then he sells the eggs basically fertilized, and he's making bank. He's got, I don't know, like 20, 30 ducks, and he just is selling the eggs for like $1 a piece because people want ducks, right? So, yeah. So
thank you for turning into the OtherWorldsGG farm report. It'll be
so Farm Simulator, right? That's
the thing. Well, we had an episode not too long ago about esports, and we didn't even talk about the esports farming simulator scene. But yeah, there you go.
Yeah. Geez,
but
missed opportunity there.
Yeah, but let's get on into the news here with the stuff. So, Mellified, why don't you start us off here?
Sure. So this one just kind of came out of left field. Ubisoft has the license for Uno, the famous traditional card game, and they've done a few themed decks for it as DLC, but they recently dropped a $5 DLC themed with Assassin's Creed Valhalla, but they've actually added elements where you play cards on specific spots on the board. And so you like play a card on your your Viking longship, and it moves around the board and like somebody else can get hit with it and stuff. To be fair, I haven't played it, so I don't know all the rules, all the nuances, but I just was sort of fascinated that we have this kind of innovation coming out of Ubisoft for Uno of all things. And you can play this, I think, on all the different platforms, although I don't believe it's crossplay. So if you're an Uno fan, maybe that's worth checking out.
Gnarly. Well, Minecraft's getting some DLC. There's a new Sonic movie coming out, and so Minecraft Sonic DLC gets a free update. It adds new zone, new skins, and much more. Looking at
Better
this,
get it fast.
Yeah, gotta go fast. It's very interesting that I feel like, Fortnite is to Epic what Minecraft is to Microsoft. It feels like, it just the add-on, the tie-in to an existing game as promotional stuff for third party, whatever. It's quite interesting.
Well, I know one of the things with Minecraft DLC that Microsoft did, there's an exclusive Mario DLC that you can only get on the Switch, for example. And at least at one point, the Halo themed DLC for Minecraft was Xbox exclusive. I think it's now available everywhere. So there are some interesting, platform specific things that they've done. The Sonic DLC getting a free update like this is kind of cool. That they would go back. I've already given them my money for it, but they're giving me free stuff with it, which is kind of neat. So,
well, I know that like recently with Among Us, Microsoft did a whole thing with Among Us where you can get like Spartan armor as like cosmetic stuff in Among Us. And which is funny because I played there's a whole group of friends of we played a huge 15-person Among Us round a couple weeks ago, and I happened to have it, and so I usually like to play as the red Among Us character, and my buddy also had it, but I didn't realize that he had it, and but he typically plays the blue Among Us character a lot, and we both spawned in as red versus blue Spartan. And nice. It just kind of became the meme of the night of like, finish the fight, like,
that's great.
So all of the red versus blue, like Sarge memes were coming out, and oh my gosh, it was.
So wait, they put Master Chief in Among Us? I'm confused.
No, they put Spartan armor in Among Us. So like
right.
So essentially. Your hat and your body, so it makes you look like a Spartan, essentially. Okay. And there's also
that's basically what I said. You can Master Chief it and Spartan, yeah.
I guess. I mean, if you want, but like,
well, you're not specifically like right. John 823, whatever his serial number is, right?
117, but yeah,
117. Fuck you for even knowing.
Welcome to the OtherWorldsGG, the lore cast for Halo. We appreciate you tuning in.
It's like
I was talking to somebody the other day because they were saying something, like lore stuff, and I was just like, well, yeah, you need to meet my buddy because he's like the lore guy for Star Trek, Star Wars, and Halo, and because they were talking about like, oh, I watched the Halo series and it ain't bad. And I'm just like, well, you need to watch this with my friend because he's like cringing so hard he can't stand it, like watching it. He's like, well, yeah, like for lore guys. He's like, but it's no Star Wars. And I'm like, oh, you don't even know.
Yeah, no, it's funny. It's because like I could probably tell you like all the different serial numbers and like from the different Star Wars like stuff. It's like TK421 is this the stormtrooper number for the one that like
Han Solo
or something like that, yeah. And so landing platforms, and it's Princess Leia's cell block number or whatever it was. It's just stupid crap like that your brain retains for no freaking reason other than to like be that one upper at like a pub trivia night, so but anyway, but there you go.
Yeah,
DLCs and add-ons for other games, lots of fun. Moving right along. I do want to touch base on this one real quick because I know that recently we played it, but Ubisoft is ending Ghost Recon Breakpoint updates.
They're done.
Can't say that I'm surprised.
They gave it a good run. I mean, it's been out for a few years, so
So there's
And
tons
they
of
did fix
content.
it.
Yeah, there's
You
tons
know,
of content. Yeah. So I mean, have fun. Good for them. Good for them. What else we got here?
Let's see. So, Hypnospace Outlaw is a game that's been out for a few years. It takes you back to the 1990s internet and imagines a world where you are an enforcer for copyright and other things on this 1990s fake internet. It's a nostalgia trip for those of us who remember that era of the internet, but they're doing a sequel, a spiritual successor, we should say, not a direct sequel. But this new installment takes place in the aughts, the 2000s era of the internet, and so you're getting into social media and you're starting to see a little more activity online. So certainly looks to be a lot of fun. There's a ton of humor and inside jokes in these games, so if that's up your alley, definitely keep a lookout for it.
I strangely enjoyed the Hypnospace Outlaw game. Like, there was just something. I mean, it really was a trip.
Yeah,
it could have been called MySpace, the game, or not MySpace, GeoCities.
Yes,
GeoCities.
It was basically GeoCities, the game. It had the ring thing where you like went around. Oh gosh, yeah. Anyway, Dream Settler is the new one, and they're also doing this weird spin-off called Slayer's X Terminal Aftermath: Vengeance of the Slayer. And a vengeance. Vengeance, not vengeance. It's an intentional typo. So that's kind of a throwback to the shooter games from that era as well. That they're they're doing like a retro boomer shooter as they've come to be known game as well. So there are a couple fun things coming from the Hypnospace folks.
Cool.
In Lego Star Wars news, if you guys didn't know, Lego Star Wars: The Skywalker Saga is out, and I guess in some circles, Lego Star Wars is getting dubbed Lego May Cry, as players are continuing to discover brutal new combos, which is true. The combat system in this is vastly different than any of the other Lego Star Wars games I've ever played, and it's actually quite refreshing and very satisfying when you do some really cool combos on during boss fights and stuff like that. Like, especially as a Jedi, some of the stuff that you can do is actually a lot of fun. So
they should have put like Masters of Terras Kasi in there as like a little sub game. Would be like Lego Mortal Kombat.
You know what? I wouldn't be surprised. Yeah, I was about to say it's really not.
If you go in and look at some of the videos that are linked in the article that we're referencing from PC Gamer, I mean, you're juggling people, you're knocking them up in the air and doing combos midair and stuff against the Lego characters. And Jar Jar apparently is a particular favorite. They have the character has a dive move, so you can continue the juggle longer. So I mean, it's just kind of nuts. They've put this much into it.
Jar Jar's Poodoo dive kick.
Oh my god.
But a lot of this started because people would try to kill child Anakin. Mm-hmm. And it's a long tradition in really video games in general, but certainly in the Lego games, that you can't hurt kids. You can't kill the children characters. And so he's immortal in Lego Star Wars, so you can just keep hitting him and keep doing these ridiculous, crazy combos and actually use it to exploit the geometry in the game world and stuff, because you can be air hitting him and get across a gap that you're not supposed to be able to get across.
I will say it's actually kind of, and I hate to say this, but it's a video game. But when you go to the Jedi Temple, there's like younglings running around, and if you like kick them in the head, they go off like crying and making this like little kid noise. They're like the funniest thing, and I'm just like, I shouldn't be laughing at this, but this is actually really funny. And so you can just like run around and kick little younglings in the head and stuff like that. Anyway,
there was a story in real life a few years ago about a grandpa who got caught hitting kids in the back of the head in Walmart and walking away. And they finally noticed and caught him on camera and arrested him. But yeah, he would just run around hitting kids.
There was a meme that I saw recently that was like Hayden Christensen doing an interview. He was like, "Yeah, that scene where Anakin kills the Younglings wasn't intended by George Lucas. I just showed up to set that day and started wailing on those little fuckers, and he happened to be recording." It was just like, oh my god.
That would be delightful if true, but
oh my gosh,
still a great joke. So our perennial favorite, No Man's Sky, received another update. In space, no one can hear you yar, because it's a pirates update. You get to be an outlaw. You can basically go steal stuff and sell it on the black market. You can smuggle contraband. There's a new class of ships. They also bumped the cap. You can now have, I think it's 9 unique ships in your inventory. So they are just, continuing to go. And you can also do ship-to-ship combat in Atmo now. So you can actually follow an enemy down into the atmosphere and keep fighting them.
Yeah, I think that's new. I think that's actually been around for a little bit. They've had that one for, I don't know if that's new in this update per se.
Maybe so.
Oh, you know what? No, this is new. Sorry. I'm thinking of what is that stupid space game that will never be released? Star Citizen. Star Citizen added that stuff recently, so you can do bounties in atmosphere and do like atmospheric fights and stuff like that. Sorry.
Anyway, so when the new PC shows up, Star Citizen's going to be tested once again.
Nice.
I've been watching a streamer that I've been hanging in his Discord, the helicopter guy, and he's been playing a lot of Star Citizen when he's not flight simming, and it looks like it's better-ish.
I was pleasantly surprised, given all the negative, sentiment about the game. It's actually, there's a game there now, and you can play it, and it's enjoyable. So I give them credit for, continuing to plug away at it. That said, you do have to worry about pirates in the new No Man's Sky update actually raiding your settlements. So one of the previous updates allowed you to build little towns and become mayor of your own settlement, and now you have to worry about pirates coming and taking your stuff. So pretty crazy that $60 that you spent 6 years ago now is still paying dividends. That's great.
Yeah, so the whole No Man's Sky thing, right, was like, I don't know, they put out an update recently, right? But I have no idea what was actually in it. But they put the little be the mayor of the town thing in there.
Oh yeah, that was like the last update, or maybe even 2 updates ago that they.
But I don't think you get raided by pirates or anything.
Well, that's new in
that's
this.
What we were just talking about.
Update.
Oh, that's that. I thought you were still talking Star Citizen. Sorry.
No.
Oh, okay.
So
Witcher 3.
The Witcher 3, we were supposed to get a next gen update for The Witcher 3, and apparently CD Projekt Red farmed it out to a third party, and they weren't happy with the progress that was being made, so they're actually bringing it back in house. This got weird headlines in the press, so if you saw a news article about it, they may have said, "Oh, it's being canceled or it's being delayed indefinitely." It's just people misunderstanding what CD Projekt Red was saying, which is, hey, we're pulling it back in-house. We're going to figure out how long it'll take us to get it done, but we're actively working on it. So we will still be getting this update at some point. My hope is that this will include some nice graphical updates on PC, because although the game is beautiful, some of the mods for it, in terms of graphical fidelity, The Witcher 3 just looks spectacular modded. So fingers crossed.
Yeah, the only thing that bothers me about Witcher 3, it's a 99% perfect game. The only thing that bugs me is I can go in and just completely rob somebody's house blind while they're standing there. Just be like, "Oh, hi, I'm the Witcher. I'm here to steal all your shit," and just like go through all their drawers and everything. And they don't protest. It's just me. But the game actually expects that you're going to pick up everything. I didn't realize it the first time I played it. I didn't play it in like klepto mode, and I had a really hard time. So then the second time around, I went in and I just like stole everything and did okay.
Yeah, I think it falls into that sort of RPG trope where, you know, you have to steal everything. One of my favorite video game moments was in the Bard's Tale, the ARPG remake that came out in, you know, mid 2000s, with Carrie Ewells as the voice, and there's a whole joke in it where you get paid by a barrel maker to destroy all the barrels in the game because he wants to sell more barrels. And so they, like, you know, made fun of that whole trope of taking people's stuff out of barrels. And there's another whole sequence about stealing stuff out of people's drawers. The narrator starts giving you crap about it. Like, what kind of person does that? Who just rifles through someone else's drawers and takes their stuff? So,
yeah, barrels are an essential part of RPGs for sure. Remember when they used to rate games on time to crate? It was like how long from the start of the game until you encounter your first crate.
Yeah, that was an important metric for shooters. I remember. Was that No, it wasn't something.
It was Old Man Murray.
Old Man Murray. Thank you. Yeah.
Which I had heard. I think it's Eric Wolpaw went back and was like, okay, we have to like write more games now because I forget what he was going to work on, like more Portal or something. But he just wanted to finish the story.
Yeah, I remember him saying to Valve that he wanted them to work on Portal 3 already. I did see an article about that. I didn't include it here, but I did see mention of that. Well, let's move on to Crusader Kings 3 is getting a smaller DLC that's kind of making Spain a little more exciting. So this is certainly in Paradox's model where they do kind of a big DLC that changes a bunch of game mechanics. And then they do these kind of smaller flavor pack DLCs. And I think this one's coming out about $6, which I know a lot of people were a little bit frustrated. There was some price hikes with the last big DLC. So hopefully this is a little more reasonable price-wise.
Quake, the 26-year-old FPS, is getting new accessibility options and maps. One of the cool things is they actually have a setting now to disable or enable all settings, which is actually kind of cool. I've often actually like wanted something like that where I was just like, can I just turn everything off and then like turn it up as I want in different categories? I used to like do that when I had older graphics cards. It's not so much of a problem right now, but having that option available would be nice.
Yeah, and if you missed it, Bethesda released a new Quake add-on called Honey back in December that was a kind of a slog through a bunch of waterlogged crypts and underground temples, and it is significantly more detailed in terms of Quake levels than anything we've seen before. And also hard. So,
was that the one that Romero made? Or
no, that was different.
Okay,
that was a Ukraine fundraising thing, and it's a Doom WAD that he did.
Yeah, which I picked up, so I did pick that up. Moving on to Xbox and PC news. I'm actually going to talk about one real quick before we get into all the ones that are listed here. Recently, CCP Games, who makes EVE Online, they're in the process of raising the price of their monthly subscription for the premium tier from $15 to $20 a month.
For EVE?
For EVE Online, and that's shocking considering that the industry standard still is $15 if you're going to have a subscription tier at all for your subscribers. The excuse that has been made is that this year they're actually going back and doing FanFest again. They stopped doing FanFest for several years. I even think they stopped doing it even before the COVID stuff. But they're going to do FanFest again this year, and apparently at FanFest this year, they're releasing the biggest content update that the game has ever seen, which is a big statement to make, considering that the game literally has had nothing interesting done to it in probably the last 5 or more years. In my opinion, that's my opinion. Now, if they're gonna add the biggest content update ever, my thing is they better finally add that walking in stations update, or else like it's not worth my time. That's what they say. And here's the
Oh my god, space legs.
and here's the thing that kills me is that they did this, they made this announcement, and then they also offered up a 30% off discount for new subscribers or whatever it is, like this month, right after they made that announcement. Like, how kind of slimy is that? We're gonna
why don't they just put NFTs in the game?
Well, that's the other thing. They're probably they were trying to do that, and I think they stopped doing that or something like that. Like they were going to in the community backlash or something like that. But like,
right, so so let's piss everybody off about this and then say, oh well, or you could have NFTs and the price stays the same.
Yeah,
right, and then get everybody to manufacture consent by rage.
There's a lot of people that are up in arms about this because they announce essentially a price increase and then they offer a discount like right afterwards to hook people in, and then all of a sudden it's gonna jack up their price by a lot, come the following month. And I still have a year subscription that I'm writing out until October, I believe. So I'm good until October, but I don't ever really play the game anymore because like it's just completely turned to not. But anyway, I kind of wanted to cover all that right away because we have some other MMO news in here, and it's just interesting that in the market of MMOs that sees like Eve is such a unique MMO that it has such a unique niche like community that I feel like they're like attacking even further. Like there's been a lot of people that have been out, their numbers have been dropping, and there's a lot of people that have been outraged over a lot of their practices over the last several years. And I feel like it's just continuing to stranglehold even more of like their core fan base. Someone on Reddit said that like, it was, $20 is a hard thing to swallow for an MMO. And then like apparently some either moderator or representative from CCP was like, stop, eating your avocado toast and like drinking your Starbucks and you'll have enough money or something like that. It was just like something like something obnoxious, some obnoxious comment to it. It was just like, yeah, no,
that's moderately obnoxious. I'll give them that.
So here's the thing. Instead of paying $20 to CCP, I'm going to shill for Microsoft for just a second, which I hate doing, but I'm going to do it anyway. Spend $15 on Game Pass Ultimate and call yourself a day. Like, I mean, you're going to get access to so many games on PC and Xbox. Even if you don't have an Xbox, just get the Ultimate Pack anyway, because then you get streaming and all kinds of stuff. Have a good time.
Well, and that's the relative value comparison, right? I can give CCP $20 and get one game that admittedly is grandiose in scale, but I can get a couple hundred games for that same price. It just doesn't seem, or for less, I should say. So this doesn't seem to make sense. I don't know.
Right.
Yeah. I just wish that there was an alternative to EVE Online, and yet there is not. Right. So.
I mean, there's a couple of games. No, Elite's actually a worse alternative because there's nothing in Elite. At least the thing with Eve is at least you have something to do. But
yeah, like if they had the economy in a space game kind of thing going on in anything else, then maybe, But I don't know of anything that's out there that, it's not like action game and then. Right, because like Star Citizen kind of thing. That's not it.
The only other game that I can think of is if you can go find a heavily modded community playing Empyrean, then that's it. But like, that's so community driven, it's obnoxious. So
yeah, it's highly dependent on the quality of the.
And that's what I mean by obnoxious. Not that the game's obnoxious, but it's just like, if I'm going to pay for a game service to play something that had, to give me value, I'd rather pay a premium price to play something online on a regular basis where they're maintaining it there, whatever, instead of having to hope out that the community is going to drive it. But anyway, moving right along, there is some World of Warcraft news. World of Warcraft Wrath of the Lich King Classic is coming later this year. as well as a new expansion called Dragonflight, which will add playable and writable dragons. I don't care.
But the Dragonflight is the Dragonflight in the main game, and then the other is just Wrath of the Lich King coming to Classic, or
Right.
is the Dragonflight coming to Classic?
No.
Okay.
No, Dragonflight is the new expansion to the main WoW thing.
Right.
Wrath of the Lich King Classic is just more of them adding in classic gameplay experience for people who want to play the classic version of that game.
Yeah, I feel like they should have met it in the middle, right? Where it's not just like, okay, we're gonna roll the clock back on Classic, and you're gonna play it the way it was. I feel like that was like a cry from the population
that's
saying,
a choice,
we wish
by the
that
way.
the game was actually harder.
No, that's a choice, by the way.
Yeah.
Like, you don't have to play Classic. When you subscribe to WoW, you get access to the Classic stuff if you want to go and play it.
Right, but I'm saying, like, there should be like a fusion version that is like the difficulty of Classic, but the conveniences of Modern.
I don't know if it's the difficulty of Classic that people necessarily want. I think what people are want. Right, I think it's the gameplay mechanics specifically, not just like how hard the difficulty is on, like, maybe.
Well, I equate that with the mechanics.
Okay.
So it's just like the game was
more. I would say the game was
it didn't
more
hold your
interesting
hand.
Right. I think the game was more interesting back then, but that's just me.
Well, then it turned into a thing of like, I install a quest tracker mod and it just puts a big arrow on the map and it's like, go here, and I don't have to figure out where to go. I don't have to talk to anybody, right? But at that point, it was like, okay, so back when I was playing EQ1, I didn't have a giant wiki that would tell me absolutely everything about the game. So you had to discover things by talking with other players, right?
Yeah, and that's something that I miss. Like, I miss that kind of thing where it's just, But you're not seeing big data-based MMOs anymore. Like, you know what I mean? Like, you're not seeing, at least not on the surface, not like that. It's certainly not like what it used to be or what it was. I mean, it takes a lot of effort to write, hundreds of quests, quest chains and like all of those things, and like
it would be very interesting to see some company come out with an MMO that is intentionally not hosted by them, but it's like, oh, okay, well, here's the MMO that you can buy a server license and stand up your own server or whatever, and then we just track all the different shards that are out there on the shard tracker, and it is player hosted. This is how we do.
Yeah,
right?
I mean,
that would be interesting.
While that is a nice concept, then you get into like, who's modifying, who's hacking, who's blah blah blah, who's it gets.
Well, I know to me that sounds like what Ark is doing and some of the other big survival PvP games where you have an official server list, and then you have unofficial servers, but it's all or largely player hosted. So
because then it's like, we don't care if you want to mod or do whatever the hell you want to do, right? Like, play it your way, make your community the way you want, but you'll always have the baseline. Like, if you want to play the pure, then you join an unmodded pure server, whatever, right?
Well,
but sure.
I'm going to switch gears a little bit and talk about Star Fox Adventures and Half-Life 2.
Two great tastes that taste great together.
Well, so there's been a mod for Half-Life 2 for a while now that replaces Alex Vance with Crystal, the female Star Fox character from the Star Fox games. The voice actress who did the voice of the character in Star Fox Adventures in the GameCube version back in 2002 has recently teamed up with the modder and recorded the voice lines for the Alex replacement mod. So now you can play with an actual, Crystal voice actor. This Crystal mod's kind of over the top. I mean, they actually have tail physics implemented for her character, so as well as full facial animation. So if this is something, you're a big Crystal fan from
or
Star
a big
Fox,
furry,
Well, I think those two things go together, but
Okay.
you know, this is the mod for you, I guess.
Do a barrel roll.
Kind of cool that that the voice actress was willing to come out and you know, do that for free though. Kudos to her for taking that step. The relaxing walking game, A Short Hike, now has a multiplayer mode with 99 player support.
Wow.
So if you've ever wished that you could walk around with your friends, you can get this game, and it is off of itch.io.
Okay, so we call it Hike Royale, and then there's like everybody has a bomb on their neck, and you have to get to the whatever. Hike Royale
Nice.
with cheese.
Did either of you play Dwarf Fortress?
I wouldn't say played it.
Yeah.
I would say stared at it.
Okay. For those of you who aren't familiar, Dwarf Fortress used ASCII text to create its little worlds, and was known for its extensive character backstories. And
yeah, I used to love reading the after action from people. That was an incredible story generator. Although I could never figure out, how did these guys actually extract all the story of these events? I could never keep track of what was going on because so much was going on so fast. Like, do you have to go back and carefully review the logs or what? I don't know. I'm waiting for it to come to Steam because they're putting mouse controls in. That's always been my beef, right? Is like you can get over the ASCII by installing a tile set, but then you still have to figure out how to control that beast, and it's rough.
Yeah, well, and that's really the big news here, is that there is a graphical version coming to Steam in the not too distant future, and it's, you know, looking pretty good from some of the screenshots. So
yeah, well, they announced it like 5 years ago. I've been waiting and waiting.
Yep, as have a lot of us. Do you
remember this? You remember the story about the guy that had like all the cats dying, and then they found out it was actually because the cats would go in the bar and get beer on their paw and lick themselves clean and get drunk, and they were dying from alcohol poisoning. That's a true story from, you know, that's Dwarf Fortress, that crazy BS.
Yeah.
Or the one time when the guy, like, they captured some vampires, but he let the vampire live, and then the vampire ended up becoming the king, and there was like a coup attempt to like try to get, and I'm just like, how much of this is actually like AI and how much is just random shit? But when you read it, it sounds like something hyper intelligent happened in the game.
Yeah, fascinating.
Yeah.
So a lot of people don't know this, but late at the end of the Xbox 360 era, Microsoft did a family plan for Xbox Live Gold. So for $100, you could get 4 accounts set up with Xbox Live Gold. And with the Xbox One, they changed that, and they made it so that your home console unlocked Xbox Live for anybody who uses it, and that's carried forward to Game Pass, where you know, I share Game Pass with one of my kids, and as long as they play on my home Xbox, they get access to all of the benefits of Xbox Live Gold and Xbox Game Pass. The one unfortunate part is, on PC, you have to sign out of the Xbox app, sign out of the Microsoft Store, sign in with my account, download the thing you want, and then, you know, sign back out and sign back in as the other account, which is obviously not much fun. And on Xbox, you have to sign in with my account to get anything from Game Pass. So it's not, I mean, the sharing is there, but it's not super convenient. Microsoft is apparently working on a new family plan option for Game Pass, though. So the rumor is that this is coming very soon, but we don't have any details really beyond, that there would be 5 accounts on the same plan, and one person would pay for the whole thing. If that's true, that is exactly what I want. This would be perfect for me because I have 5 of us. I pay for 3 accounts right now, and I could pay for 1, even if it's twice as much. I'm still gonna save $180 a year, so that'll be great.
That's awesome. Yeah, I hope they do this. It seems like they're doing more and more consumer friendly stuff for gamers and families and stuff like that, so that'll be nice.
Well, I don't think I'm unique in having a family of gamers, right? Like,
no, and you're not. Yeah. Well, and what's nice is now that I have this Switch, I've been playing Mario Kart with the wife, and getting into more of the Nintendo world again, and it's to the point where I'm setting some money aside, and we're probably going to get her like a Switch Lite, and the online family plan option for Nintendo is actually I thought was actually really good. I was like, I'm surprised that this, because I've been so mad at Nintendo for so long that when I saw that, I was like pleasantly surprised at how good that plan is for family stuff. So,
it's very inexpensive, which I give them credit for. For sure.
Yes. Now, if only they could start maybe slow rolling out some of their first party new release stuff, that'd be nice, but whatever.
They have been getting more generous with the DLC, to their credit. The Animal Crossing DLC, the Octo, oh my gosh, the Squid Shooter one,
Splatoon
2 has a battle pass or whatever that's free with the online. So they are doing a little bit, but yeah, it's a nice perk for sure.
Hey, so Melfi, you're an achievement guy. You like achievements, don't you?
I do. I like showing them off.
Do you like having your Epic Store achievements? Do you enjoy those as well, or does that matter to you as much?
I mean, Epic Store, like, it's the neighborhood you don't really want to go into in terms of achievements, because up until this story, only I could see them. So who cares?
Yep. Well, now your Epic Store achievements can be seen by other people. Huzzah!
What a crazy concept. That's kind of the whole point.
Call your mom in the room.
You're not gonna believe this. But there you go. I'm just gonna kind of leave it at that. To me, it's the store that I don't really deal with as much, because I go every few weeks and grab a couple of free games and then walk away. Is kind of how I look at it. But
it's funny. We're gonna talk about the consoles on our next episode, and kind of the console space versus PC space. But having been lucky enough to get a Steam Deck fairly early on, I have completely changed my PC buying habits. I used to not care which store a game was on. I would buy it wherever I could get it cheap when it was on sale or whatever. I have completely switched that. Valve has been successful with the Steam Deck in changing my habits, because now I only want games from the Steam store. Because if I have to get them from Epic, it's like an extra couple steps to get them working on the Steam Deck. If I get them from GOG, it's like extra work to get them on the Steam Deck. Particularly, and stuff like achievements have always been a little dicey across different platforms. But, for me at least, it's renewed my sort of strong preference for Steam for things. Because I can install them easier.
And I love the theme and the mods and stuff like that. People are already doing some really cool stuff for the Steam Deck. The community is just going ham, but we'll get to that in a minute. Total War Warhammer 3's first big patch is here, and so are the mods. Speaking of mods, the Total War Warhammer games are some pretty cool games, and I love the fact that they kind of build on top of each other. If you have the first two and then this one, they can kind of they all kind of work together.
Well, it's nice because there's a lot of DLC for these games, and that all essentially carries forward to the next game, which really adds value to the.
If you were to guess, either Pickle or Mellified, how many Steam Workshop mods there are for Warhammer 3, how many mods would you guess there are? Mellified, you probably already know, but
I saw the article, yeah, but I wouldn't. I mean,
But tell me, suspense. I need to know.
There's over 600 mods.
That quick, huh?
yeah.
And yet they charge for blood. Like if you want the blood pack in a Warhammer game, how do you not have blood all over the ground, right? But that's like an extra $3 or something. I guess that's how they get away. Like some countries,
Yeah,
they couldn't sell the.
I suspect that's a censorship thing more than.
Yeah, well, just make it free, man. It's cut content that.
Yeah.
Politically, whatever, make it free. But whatever. Okay, it's on Game Pass too. Just saying.
Yep. Yeah, for PC, absolutely. So this next one is another mod story. Chrono Cross came out recently. It was re-released, and the new version has had a number of performance issues, stuttering and frame rate drops in particular. There's a new mod that fixes all of that, which I love the fact that the community will step in and fix these things. I find it abhorrent that the developers don't, particularly because this is not a PC exclusive. This is on consoles, which means the console players are suffering presumably just as bad as the PC players, but they don't have the option of getting a third-party mod to fix the crap. So
right. Well, I mean, again, this is why I love the community though on PC. Like with these games, like people love stuff so much that they're willing to try and jump in there. But I don't have doubts that, the developer will probably jump in, but have you played the new Chrono Cross, by the way, or the re-release?
I haven't yet, no.
Yeah, I'd really like to know how it is, or, talk to somebody who's played it and have them tell me.
I looked at the Steam reviews and people weren't particularly happy about, issues. Like a lot of the graphics, the scaling stuff, people weren't too keen on, and whatever. The consensus was just get an emulator and play the PlayStation version.
So did either of you guys play House of the Dead? Any of those games back in the day?
I've never really been a huge zombie or horror person, but other than like maybe Left 4 Dead, but no, I can't say that I did.
I played some Typing of the Dead.
Yep. Typing of the Dead was great, but I love light gun games, especially in the arcades, but even the home adaptations. One of my favorite genres to just chill out and play some shoot 'em up. So House of the Dead's always been this just ridiculously over the top, terrible acting, terrible voice acting, god awful, translated script with terrible English, but it's got this certain just goofy charm to it as a lot of schlock stuff does. And so House of the Dead's always been a favorite. They did a remake of it for Switch that is now coming to PC. Now, my understanding is on the Switch, it's not very good. The control schemes, trying to replicate a light gun on a Switch are just kind of goofy. But we do have both the Sinden light gun, and then there's also a gun for IR solution that lets you get actual light guns back on your PC. I have 2 of the Sinden light guns with the kickback action, and they are super, super fun to play. And extremely accurate, surprisingly so. So I'm really looking forward to this because it gives me something to play with my shiny light guns. But
nice, when you mention light gun stuff, I do enjoy the light gun games. But yeah, what's interesting? Speaking of controls that were interesting to play, I a couple weeks ago, a buddy of mine had a copy of the HD Zelda. Oh god, the name all of a sudden slipped my mind. Skyward Sword that is on the Switch. And originally when that came out, that was Wii motion control crap, whatnot. I was actually pleasantly surprised at the remappings for the Switch. Playing it on the Switch was actually quite shocking. So it's fun to see when developers put in the actual effort to make these games work for more modern senses.
Well, it's interesting that they port Wii things over to a system that does actually have motion controls. If you pull your pull your Joy-Con off, and then they get away from it.
Yes, but that's the thing, though. People didn't like playing Zelda games with motion control. I think more people liked playing the GameCube version of Twilight Princess than the Wii version of Twilight Princess, for example. People enjoy, people enjoyed playing Breath of the Wild more on their Switch than they probably did on their, but that was never motion control, period. But, it just, Skyward Sword, I think, had a rough time because it was only on a motion controlled system and people just didn't like it as much because of that.
Right. Yeah, it was like, let's make the games fit the platform kind of thing, and wasn't the best.
Yeah, my least favorite example of a developer doing that was the Steel Battalion third game that came out for the Kinect on Xbox 360, and they just wrecked the game. I mean, it was atrocious.
All right, well, we now have a news section in our shows for news, which is called Steam Deck. So, Mellified, this is all you.
Yeah, well, I threw this in because we had a few different Steam Deck stories, and I'm not sure, that we'll keep it long term. I think this will, a lot of this kind of merges into the PC, but both with the excitement around Steam Deck and the fact that there's a lot of energy in the community right now because people are really exploring what they can do with the Steam Deck. There's some fun news here. The first is that there is a tool called Lutris, which I thought was just a Linux Tetris clone. It turns out that is not the case. It is, in fact, a multi-library launcher. So this allows you to get several different game libraries besides your Steam one onto the Steam Deck. Now, I mentioned a few minutes ago that I've been kind of tending to buy stuff on Steam rather than these third-party stores. And that's really just because it's the experience is very good. It is not perfect, and it's a bunch of extra steps to kind of install those games and get the artwork on them, and they're in a different part of your Steam library when you go in on the Steam Deck. So I still prefer them, the Steam version, but it's great that if you have a game on a different platform that you can get at it through your Steam Deck nonetheless. And speaking of other games on the Steam Deck, emulation is another big area of excitement around the Steam Deck. And there is a kind of custom built launcher that adds all the games into specific platform collections in your Steam library, so you can find them and play them, called Emu Deck. And that one uses Emulation Station under the hood, if you're familiar with that. So really, those two are making it easier to do third-party stuff. Steam, Valve themselves have over 50% of the top 100 games for Steam working on the Steam Deck now, which is pretty crazy.
It is nuts, yeah.
Yeah, I mean, considering, this is all basically Linux, translation layer stuff, it's pretty impressive. And last but not least, one of the big concerns a lot of people have with the Steam Deck is maximizing battery life. And certainly the system, does not have a absolutely massive battery. I tend to just play plugged in at home. If I'm in the family room or something, want to play a PC game, I'll plug in. But for people who are trying to stay mobile, they've figured out that if you limit the screen to 40 hertz rather than 60, it significantly extends the battery life and still very, very playable. So that's kind of a neat little hack that people have discovered. So certainly, I'm excited for other folks to get the Steam Deck here on OtherWorldsGG and really get into it. I don't think people who haven't got it yet should feel bad, frankly, because all of this early experimentation is going to just get better and better and better, to the point where in a few months, all of the rough edges will be smoothed off. It'll be a much better experience. So don't feel too bad about waiting. It's a lot of fiddly bits at the moment.
Well, moving on to some retro news, here are a couple of stories that I find freaking fascinating. This first one shocked me when I saw it. There is a fan-made mod for Metroid Prime I don't even understand. I mean, these people, these people do some
They're
amazing
pretty
stuff.
amazing.
Yeah. So it uses a custom version of the Dolphin emulator to introduce the upgraded features, um, to be able to play this. You know, they say, of course, you need to own a copy of Metroid Prime on the GameCube or Metroid Prime Trilogy on the Wii. But my goodness, like the visual overhaul and the upgrades to this whole thing are pretty fascinating.
4K. I mean,
Yeah.
right there. You know, new textures, better lighting, particle effects. They restored the Wii version, cut some of the GameCube content. That's back. You can do keyboard and mouse controls or normal gamepad controls for it. You get a field of view slider, UI customization. I mean, it's just wow. This is so cool. To do this to a great classic game.
So I'm definitely gonna check it out because that's awesome.
For sure.
What was the other one here that we got?
Doom. Our good old friend Doom. Recently, somebody took the engine and added ray tracing of all things. And it's part of the PR Boom source port, which is an open source engine for running Doom WADs, Doom levels.
Wow,
and
that kind of makes some of the Doom stuff look terrifying. Ooh.
It is amazing what a difference it makes. I was pleasantly surprised and like Table for Two, kind of shocked because it looks creepier, it looks darker and meaner and scarier, and like the glow, the shadows from the monsters, the fireballs are light sources, so they cast shadows and things. It just really, really looks cool.
Yeah.
So
yeah, that's
definitely worth checking out. I mean, you can't beat the price being free, so it's pretty slick.
All right, moving right along. What else we got here?
It's deceptively small in our show notes, but Meta, formerly Facebook, formerly Oculus, did their big annual Meta Quest gaming showcase recently. And so we had a ton of VR games announced. The Walking Dead Saints and Sinners Chapter 2. We're getting an NFL Pro game where you play a first person as the quarterback. Among Us VR is coming, although we knew that already. One of the better story narrative exploration games out today is Red Matter for VR, and we got a news of a Red Matter 2. Espire was one of the early stealth action games in VR. Espire 2 is coming. Moss Book 2 is coming to Quest. That was previously on PlayStation VR. Ruins Magus is a new game. It was originally a Kickstarter, but it's a JRPG style VR game. City Skylines is one of the better like SimCity, successors. That is coming to VR in the form of a new game called Cities VR. Resident Evil 4 VR is getting a update with the Mercenaries mode, and they're adding some new challenges that have rewards like Big Head mode as a little fun perk. Beat Saber is getting a electronic mixtape available soon. We have Bone Lab, which is a follow-up to Boneworks, which was one of the more interesting physics games in VR. And finally, last but not least, we're getting a Ghostbusters VR game. So this one looks pretty interesting because it has both single player and co-op. And I mean, I don't know. I grew up with Ghostbusters, so like the idea of actually being able to play as a Ghostbuster in first-person VR sounds super, super fun. So I'm looking forward to this one. Yeah, I mean, as a co-op game, that just seems perfect to me. So
yeah, no doubt.
So yeah, just a ton of game announcements in the VR space lately. So
Another interesting thing too is we got an article here talking about SideQuest, and I've been using SideQuest. I have SideQuest for my Quest, which is it's its own VR content platform. It's for standalone headsets like the Quest and Quest 2, where they have their own store of things, tech demos, experimental games. Sometimes they have game ports to full scale games.
Half-Life, Quake, Doom, I think, are all available through SideQuest.
Yeah, but the cool thing too here though is they've actually got a really good working relationship with Meta. Mark Zuckerberg said last year that he openly expressed his intention to continue supporting sideloading and linking Quest to PC to allow more flexibility for consumers and developers, which just makes sense. Which is why Quest 2, my Quest 2 still remains to be like, if you're going to get into VR, it's probably one of the best ways to do it because it's the best of like both worlds. You can use it on your PC, you can take it with you and play standalone independent stuff. It's you can play it wirelessly with your PC too, which is pretty nuts.
Yeah, I mean, Meta did do App Lab, which is their kind of unofficial store. They won't do any advertising of anything on App Lab. You kind of have to do that yourself, but you can charge money. You can do DLC as a developer, and SideQuest supports all of that. But it also gets the stuff that you can't do legally in a store, like Doom and Quake and those things, where you have to have the game, you have to pull the level data, the graphics, all that stuff into a different engine, and then load it all onto your Quest. So it's really neat that we have that.
I'd have had no idea that App Lab even existed had you not told me. They don't exactly advertise it.
They do not. No, it's really because Oculus got sort of a bad reputation with developers for rejecting games that were, seemingly done and ready to go, and refusing to list them in the store. This was kind of the compromise, was App Lab. So,
well, in PlayStation news, bit of good news and bad news, I guess here. We'll start with the bad. PS5 TV picture settings are broken by a new firmware feature. So that doesn't sound good.
Yeah, well, Sony, there's a feature called auto low latency mode on modern TVs that basically puts your TV into game mode automatically when it detects a console. Seems like a good thing. Unfortunately, something about the way the PS5 firmware update now tries to trigger that auto low latency mode was causing problems on certain TVs and basically locking you out of the settings for your TV, which is kind of crazy.
Well, in other news though, if you love the DualSense PS5 controller and you like playing with it on your PC, you can now officially update the firmware to the PS5 controller through Windows updates on your PC. So they've so that's actually really good. I like that because I love using my Xbox controller on my PC, but if people love their PlayStation controller and want to use it on games on the PC, now they can officially update it without having to update it through the console. So,
and there have been several, like I think 4 or 5 controller firmware updates since the PlayStation 5 launched less than a year ago. So it is kind of a big deal, and a lot of those firmware updates were adjusting the haptic feedback, which is the big reason to use the PlayStation 5 controller. So that is definitely maybe a bigger deal than it seems like. I know Call of Duty, I think it was, allows you to play with the haptic triggers in the game, even on PC. Like that was a feature of the PS5 version, but if you have the DualSense controller, you can do that on PC as well, which is kind of cool.
Do you still have to run like some hack thing to get the PlayStation 5 controller to even show up, or did they finally put real drivers for Windows?
I don't know. I know PS4 you still have to do hacky stuff, but I'm not sure if maybe if the game has support for it natively, it just works. But
I think Steam has profiles for it.
Okay, that's true. Yep.
Like you can use.
But does it actually show up as a direct input device or no? because then otherwise you have to run something to make it do that, and then you can do what you want.
Right.
Just seems goofy. Like, why doesn't Sony just put out a PC driver for the damn controller?
I don't know.
I don't know. One of those things.
Well, moving on to our tech news. There's a wow. So we got a few. Sorry, there's a few things here. There's this new like handheld console coming out. Well, I guess that it's out now.
Yeah,
I've not been interested in this. Like, I took one look at this and went like, why would I bother? Like, I'm not remotely interested in this thing at all. But there's this new thing called Playdate. It's like a Game Boy with a crank on the side of it, and it's okay. Talk about this, Malify, because this thing looks sorry, it looks dumb, but whatever.
Well, I think the interesting part about it is the approach to the games that they're going to sell for this. I mean, it's very, very simple, right? You have a D-pad, you have an A and a B, and you have a crank and like a start button. There's nothing else on the system. It's very, very scaled back. It is grayscale, black and white, essentially. And so what they're doing around the games, though, is when you activate your system, it unlocks a certain number of games, and then it unlocks a new game every 2 weeks for a year. And that's part of the purchase. But like if you bought one 6 months from now, the timer on that year of new games doesn't start until you activate your system. It's not like you're just going to get a year's worth of games if you buy it a year from now. And what they're promising is they'll have yearly passes where you'll be able to buy, the year 2 pass and get another 20 odd games. So it's interesting, it's a very different business model. The intent is that these are, just fun little games that you can sit down and try out and have some entertainment with. But it's not going to be, an epic 80-hour RPG. You're not going to see Skyrim on this thing. It's a different, it's almost like the Game & Watch in some sense, right? It was like one game. It was very simple, but it was still fun to sit there and play some of those, games on a little handheld. And I think that's kind of the feel that they were going for.
Well, in other news,
I have one of these pre-ordered. Mine, I'm in the second wave, which is going to be in the summer. So I'm interested to see, it firsthand for myself. I love, just weird, goofy consoles like this. The guys who made this Panic are actually very well known in the Mac community. They do a lot of development tools for Mac, strangely enough. They have like an FTP client for Mac. So it's an odd choice that they're the ones who are building this little console, but I think their relationship with the development community means that I think we'll see some really interesting, innovative games. Certainly one of the ones that I loved was Doom was ported to this, because you have to port Doom to everything, of course. And in order to use the chain gun, you had to use the crank on the side to fire the chain gun, for example. So some perhaps silly but kind of fun.
It's like a handheld that was made for Sega bass fishing.
Yeah, I mean, it'd be a great fishing controller for sure. So we'll see how good the games are. I think that's going to be the measure of it for sure.
In other news, 6-core CPUs are now the more popular CPU than quad-core chips, according to Steam. Steam's like
hardware
surveys and stuff like that. So that's pretty slick. Nice to see that out there. And did you know that the U.S. Navy successfully tested giant lasers against drones?
Excellent.
Pew pew.
Yeah, so I mean, they've apparently the way that these work is they can use them to, according to this, dazzle, distract, disable, or destroy sensors, or straight up just burn targets until they explode. Yeah, that's not scary at all. So
well, I mean this was like sci-fi stuff to me, you know, that we're actually getting lasers that are being used as weapons. The Russians have long been rumored. There was a Soviet weapon system that actually was designed to burn out the eyes of pilots, where it would shoot a high intensity laser at incoming jet fighters. So there is some precedence here, but it's interesting to use it against a drone.
Yeah, I saw Wired or somebody had a article about basically a lightning bolt sniper rifle, but they called it a sniper rifle, but the range was only like 150 yards, and I'm like, yeah, that's a not really sniper operating distance, but okay, sure. But it was interesting. It would not only hit the target, but people standing around them because it would like arc. Which is very D&D.
Yeah, chain lightning spell for the win. We also are getting a pizza robot. Folks at MIT are actually building a robot whose goal is to roll out and create delicious pizza. So this is, seems kind of a silly application, but it's actually a fairly complex and difficult problem to solve. And so that is helping them push the state of the art for AI by trying to figure out how to solve all these different problems.
And everybody that works in a pizza shop just got nervous.
I think it'll be a few years before they have to worry.
Or a pizza robot gets stuck under the couch like my Roomba does.
Yeah, it gets stuck in the pizza oven and melts.
Yeah, okay, can we talk about how dumbass robots are? So it's a vacuum cleaner. It runs around the house, right?
Yep.
And gets stuck on everything.
Yes.
And you spend more time dealing with that. And then, of course, I have pets and my wife's got long hair. So you end up with like the hair and the thing. So you end up like the robot runs and then you end up having to do like a tear down of the thing. And there's so much maintenance that goes on with it.
Yep.
Plus the, help stepbrother, I'm stuck, that you have to go like find it. It's like, where'd you go? Oh man, you're up under the couch again. And for like $100, you can get a stick vac that recharges. You just grab it and you run around and it takes like 5 minutes and you've swept the whole house. So I own the thing, but I don't understand why I own the thing. Like, I don't know if I had to buy it again, would I even bother?
I had a very similar experience. I bought, I think, 3 successive generations of the Roomba, and like hoping that it would actually do what it was supposed to do. And I spent more time cleaning, hair out of the rollers than I actually did vacuuming. It was infuriating, so I just gave up.
Yeah, I bought the Nito one actually, which is way better than the Roomba that I had, but still,
interesting.
All those problems. So,
yeah. All right, well, moving on to our business and legal section. This story just, underlines double underlines with a couple exclamation points the fact that scalpers are dicks and scalpers will scalp anything. The collector's edition of the Lego Star Wars Skywalker Saga game has in it a young Luke from Dantooine drinking blue milk. And people are scalping this for as much as $200 for one Lego figure. I mean...
The problem is not the people scalping, but the people that actually buy it.
Fair.
Because if nobody would give in, then it wouldn't be a market.
You're correct. That's true. It's still frustrating, right? Like if somebody really wanted this, if this was like their favorite character and they missed out on a pre-order, it doesn't seem like it should cost them, more than the game to go get.
And it's just a little minifig, and he's got like a blue bottle in his hand, right?
Yep, and like he's got like a blue milk mustache on the Lego head. Yeah, I mean,
I feel like the people to whom that would be important would be the people that would spend hundreds of dollars on it, because They have no choice, right? It's like, I must, for whatever reason.
Right. No, you're right about
what
that.
I hate is the people that get the toys that a kid would want, right? And then scalp that out for exorbitant amounts, right? It was like, that's the real assholery, is when kids can't get things because adults are hoarding it.
Yeah, Skylanders was a great example of that when it was popular. The collectors would snap up all of the chase variants and things, and nobody else could get them.
Yeah, I'm still diamond hands on my Beanie Babies.
Yeah,
I'm holding.
Well, let me know how that works out for you.
Yeah.
On welcome to the OtherWorldsGG community cast about investing. Thank you for joining us. No, GOG, our good friends at GOG, used to be called Good Old Games, and they dropped that when they started selling brand new games because they didn't want to confuse people, I suppose. But with the launch of the Epic Store, I think GOG's been squarely in third place for a while now, and they are going back to their roots. They're gonna start focusing more on bringing old games to the platform, games that we haven't been able to get for a long time. They've been very successful at that. We got a lot of the Star Wars games brought out of retirement not too long ago through GOG, so I'm certainly hopeful that we will see a lot more classic games from GOG in the future.
Well, I think the more recent thing was actually the Star Trek games that came out.
Oh, I'm sorry. Yeah, Star Trek. That's what I meant.
This because the Star Wars stuff we've had for a while, but the Star Trek games were the things I think people were waiting for. It was that Armada 1 and 2 that was just took forever to come out.
Mm-hmm.
I would fully support Lego Star Trek if they would do such a thing, but they haven't and won't. Lego's just had no relationship with Trek at all, right? It was that stuff fell under Mega Bloks or some BS.
Mega Bloks and Playmobil, I think, did stuff with Star Trek back in the day.
Yep.
So a little bit of China news. China has issued its first video game approvals in almost a year. For those who don't know, the government in China has a very strict policy of approvals for any popular content, shows, movies, and so forth. And video games fall under that. They hadn't previously gone this long without approving anything, but it's been July of 2021 since we saw any new approvals. So I don't know if that indicates maybe China's softening on video games a little bit, because they've certainly had a fairly large crackdown recently, but that's where we're at. Now, interestingly, kind of hand in hand with that, China has announced that they are not allowing live streaming of games that are not approved in the country, which I guess kind of makes sense. If the game's not approved, you shouldn't be playing it in their mind. But apparently, you could live stream those games just fine, and China doesn't want you doing that anymore. I don't know where Chinese folks live stream. I know Twitch is not in China, so there must be a Chinese equivalent, but and maybe that's how the Chinese government's able to enforce this. All right, our perennial favorite funny and strange section. Where do we start here, table? we got some good ones this time around.
I think the Breath of the Wild one's actually kind of funny. So there's this guy that spent about 10 hours in Breath of the Wild specifically reuniting 4 beetles, which are the I guess they're kind of like the traveling salesman guy with the giant backpack or whatever it is, or whoever.
Well, one of the weird things about Breath of the Wild is it's one character. There is only one beetle. But in the game, when you see him in different parts of the world, it's actually a different instance of the same character.
Mm-hmm.
So what this guy was able to do is basically smack the beetle repeatedly to push them into a particular spot, and then go find the next one and push them all the way back repeatedly. And that's why it took 10 hours. But he did manage to reunite the 4 beetles. which obviously is amusing since it sounds like beetles.
Yeah,
like
because
the
he's got like a giant beetle thing on his back or whatever it is. So that's people do things. I guess they're just waiting on the sequel to come out, but whatever.
yeah.
Then there's also another Zelda thing here. A novelization for Zelda: A Link to the Past had a very different name for Link. Which
table the I don't even know how to say this. Link's name in the book was Paul.
Very underwhelming.
Yeah.
But one of the Beatles.
Also true. Interestingly, you can find the novelization on archive.org if you're interested in seeing the adventures of Paul in Zelda Land. So there you go.
So is that real Paul or fake Paul? Because Paul died and was replaced, right? That's how the conspiracy theory is.
Yeah,
for the Beatles.
Yeah.
Oh, okay.
Yeah. Google it. Google it. Fake Paul.
In other news, the French president is going for re-election. He's got a re-election campaign that has its own Minecraft server. So congratulations. I guess that's one way to get the youth of tomorrow. Yeah. There is this Japanese company calls its gaming bed setup the Forbidden Layout. I don't. This is such a. It's just a bed.
Well, it is a robot bed. To be fair, it is an electric bed, so you can raise your legs, you can raise your back. Is
this like one of those bed commercials, but for like the gamers like now?
Yes.
Back in the day, you'd see those infomercials for like those beds that like raise your legs up and it can go into like 5 different positions and it's this.
Yep.
They're doing these things for the young gamer now, and I don't know whether to be sad or impressed, because it's like, as a young gamer, I wouldn't think you would need a bed like this, but whatever.
Well, one of their examples was saying that in a lot of urban areas, people are in small apartments, and so having a multi-use space is a very good thing. So sure, okay. I mean, if they can sell them, more power to them, I guess.
And then we've got a couple other ones here.
So
what do we got?
Bloodstained Ritual of the Night is doing a crossover with the Ubisoft game Child of Light. Okay, just kind of two things I didn't know I needed to go together. Mass Effect has got a GBA demake. Doing demakes is kind of the popular thing these days. It seems like we've been getting a handful of them. And basically, this is if you took the old classic GBA game Advance Wars and mashed it up with Mass Effect. So they've done, some very, very cute pixel art of the different characters from Mass Effect and put them in a turn-based combat game, a la Advance Wars.
Well, last but not least, we have Cyberpunk 2077 running in a whopping 72p. That's right.
Are you going to be able to do this with your new rig, Alien Pickle?
Do you think you can run at 128 by 72?
Run what? I missed what game you're talking about.
Cyberpunk 2077. You think you can run that at 128 by 72?
Why would I?
Well, some streamer did it and cranked up the rendering settings, turned on RTX, and then went into the INI file and was able to set it to 720p with 10% rendering. So it would actually render at 128 by 72.
That's pretty cool. If you have like those overhead projectors they used to have in school.
Yeah,
you get the lens off of one of those, right? And then you could actually see the screen. It's a
It is
giant magnifying glass.
Yeah, it is surprising. Like, you can still sort of tell what's going on, but there's just so little detail. It looks like an impressionist painting almost. It's bizarre.
Yeah, it's like, let's play Cyberpunk on my Atari 2600.
Yeah, yeah, it's like that level.
It's like, see that blue square? Yeah, that's the guy.
So yeah, it was just interesting. Obviously, no practical use case particularly, but gosh, it sure looks funny. So
well, there you go, guys. That'll about do it for this episode. Head on over to our Discord server at discord.otherworlds.gg for all this and more. Come and hang out with us. We try to do Thursday night community nights. We played a little bit of Breakpoint this last time. Had some good fun there. And yeah, we will see you guys in the next episode. This has been episode number 58.
yeehaw.